There's something that confuses almost everyone who has ever been involved with a narcissist. You watch them move on, quickly, effortlessly, new person, new connection, new story. And from the outside it looks like you were replaced. Like everything you felt, everything you gave, was somehow interchangeable. But if that were true, why do they keep coming back? Why does something about you stay unfinished in their mind, even when they've already moved on? The truth is, they didn't replace you. They replaced the position, or what you were doing inside their world. That part was never replaced. Let me walk you through what actually happens. You've been through the discard. Maybe it was sudden. Maybe it was slow and cruel. Maybe they just woke up one day and looked at you like you were a stranger. And within weeks sometimes, days, there's someone new. And here's what makes it hurt so much. It doesn't look like a rebound. It looks like an upgrade. They're posting pictures. They're going to dinner. They're introducing this person to friends. They're doing all the things they promised they would do with you. And your brain starts asking a very dangerous question. Was I that easy to replace? Because if they could just slide someone else into your spot, then what did any of it mean? The late nights, the forgiveness, the way you stayed when every instinct told you to leave, the way you kept believing in someone who kept showing you exactly who they were. You start questioning yourself. Maybe I wasn't special. Maybe I was just convenient. Maybe I imagined the whole thing. But here's what most people never realize. When a narcissist moves on fast, they're not moving toward something. They're running from something. And what they're running from is the silence. Because after you leave, after the chaos settles and the dust clears, there's this massive, terrifying emptiness where their regulation used to be, where your presence used to be, where the one person who actually understood them used to be. They don't replace you. They replace the silence you left behind. And those are two completely different things. Let me explain. When you're in a relationship with a narcissist, you become something you never signed up to become. You become an emotional anchor, a regulator, a translator. You learn to speak a language no one taught you, the language of their unspoken needs, their hidden fears, their fragile ego that has to be protected at all costs. You learn to read the micro shifts in their mood, the slight change in tone that means danger, the silence that means punishment, the sudden warmth that means they need something. You didn't choose this role. It was assigned to you, and you stepped into it because you cared, because you believed, because you thought if you just loved them enough, understood them enough, gave them enough, eventually they would see you. Eventually they would choose you back. But here's what happened instead. You became essential, not in the way a person is essential, in the way a drug is essential, in the way oxygen is essential to someone who doesn't know how to breathe on their own. And when you left, they didn't just lose a partner, they lost their regulation. Let me say something that might be hard to hear. You weren't just a partner to them, you were a regulator, and most people don't even know what that means. So let me break it down. A narcissist's internal world is chaos, constant, exhausting, unrelenting chaos. There is no stable sense of self. There is no inner compass that says, I am okay, I am enough, I am safe. Every single day is a negotiation with shame. Every interaction is a performance designed to protect something that feels incredibly fragile underneath. They need someone to regulate that chaos. They need someone to absorb the projection, to hold the stability they don't have, to calm the storm they can't calm themselves. And that's what you did. Every time they exploded, you absorbed it. Every time they blamed you, you questioned yourself instead of them. Every time they pulled away, you waited. Every time they came back, you opened the door. You didn't just love them, you managed them. You stabilized their emotions by sacrificing your own. You absorbed their chaos by carrying it for them. You understood them so deeply that you could predict their behavior before it happened. And here's what most people miss. That's not codependency. That's not weakness. That's the natural response of an empathetic person trapped in an impossible dynamic. You didn't fail by caring too much. You failed to realize that you were doing emotional labor for someone who would never return it. But that's not the point I want to make. The point is this. what you gave them, no one else can easily replicate, and they are finding that out right now. Let me be very clear about something. When I say empath, I'm not talking about someone who just cries during sad movies. I'm not talking about someone who's too sensitive. I'm not talking about the pop psychology definition that makes empathy sound like a weakness or a curse. Here's what a real empath actually is. Someone who can see the truth about another person and still stay. Someone who can witness behavior that would send most people running and still look for the wound underneath. Someone who understands that hurt people and still chooses to hold compassion without erasing boundaries. And that's you. You didn't love them because you were blind. You loved them because you saw exactly what they were: the good, the bad, the broken, the beautiful, and you chose to believe in the part of them that was still reachable. That's not naivety, that's courage. Most people love the version of someone that's easy to love, the curated version, the Sunday morning version, the version that shows up on good days. But you loved the version that showed up at 2 a.m., the version that was ashamed, the version that didn't know how to say, "I'm scared," so they said, "You're the problem," instead, the version that pushed you away while desperately needing you to stay. You didn't just love them, you understood them in a way that made them feel real. And for someone who spends their entire life performing a version of themselves for the world, feeling real is intoxicating. It's also terrifying, because to feel real means to be seen, and to be seen means to risk exposure. And to someone with a fragile ego, exposure feels like death. So they push you away, they devalue you, they replace you, and then they realize no one else sees them like that. No one else looks past the performance. No one else stays when the mast slips. No one else holds the contradiction of who they are without running. And that's when the real suffering begins. Asterisk, let me draw a distinction. That changes everything. There are two ways to be important to someone. The first way is positional. You fill a role. You provide a function. You are the person who gives attention, validation, admiration, sex, companionship, stability. These things are transferable. They can be outsourced. Someone else can do them. The second way is essential. You affect their internal world. You change how they feel about themselves. You create an experience that cannot be replicated, because it's not about what you did. It's about who you were while you were doing it. Most people in a narcissist's life are positional. They are interchangeable. They serve a purpose. And when that purpose is no longer needed, or when someone better comes along, they are discarded and replaced. But you were essential, not because you were perfect, not because you were special in some magical way, but because you gave them something they had never experienced before and may never experience again. You gave them regulation, not just validation, not just admiration, not just the ego stroking that any new supply can provide. Regulation, the feeling of being understood without having to explain, the feeling of being accepted without having to perform, the feeling of being seen and still chosen. That combination is rare. In fact, it's so rare that most narcissists will go their entire lives without finding it again. They can find admiration everywhere. New supply is abundant. There will always be someone willing to tell them they're amazing, to stroke their ego, to fall for the charm and the intensity and the love bombing. But finding someone who sees through them and still stays, someone who understands the wound beneath the weapon, someone who doesn't run when the mask slips, that's not abundant. That's not interchangeable. That's you. And that's why they keep coming back. Asterisk, let me paint you a picture of what's happening behind the scenes. You see the new relationship. You see the photos. You see the smile. You see the smile. You see the caption about how they've never been happier. And your stomach drops, because it looks real. It looks like they've finally found what they couldn't find with you. It looks like you were the problem, that you were the one holding them back. Like now that you're gone, they're free to be the person they always wanted to be. But here's what you don't see. You don't see the moment the new person says something slightly critical, and the narcissist feels that familiar sting of shame. You don't see the moment they try to explain something vulnerable, and the new person just doesn't get it. You don't see the moment they realize this new person doesn't know how to read their moods. He doesn't know how to calm their storms. doesn't know how to hold space for the parts of them that are ugly and broken and scared. You don't see the comparison? Because it's happening constantly. The new person says, "I love you," and it sounds different, not deeper, just different. And somewhere in the narcissist's mind, a voice whispers, "They don't mean it the way you meant it." The new person tries to comfort them, and it doesn't land. The words are right, the actions are there, but something is missing. Some texture, some depth, some understanding that can't be faked. Everything works, but nothing feels the same. And that's the torture of it. From the outside, the new relationship looks fine, looks good, even looks like they moved on and never looked back. But inside, there's a quiet, persistent emptiness, because you were speaking to a part of them no one else could reach. And that part is still hungry, still waiting, still hoping you'll come back and feed it again. They don't miss you the way a person misses someone they loved. They miss you the way an addict misses the one high they can never quite find again. Asterisks. This is where things get really interesting and really painful. For them, the narcissist now lives in a contradiction they cannot resolve. On one hand, they've experienced what real connection feels like with you. Not perfect connection, not healthy connection, but real, deep understanding. The kind of connection where someone saw them and stayed. On the other hand, they have returned to shallow dynamics, performative relationships, interactions based on roles and expectations rather than genuine understanding. And here's the problem. Once you've experienced depth, shallow doesn't work anymore. It's not that they can't function in shallow relationships. They can, they will. They'll have sex, go on dates, post pictures, say the right things. But underneath it all, there's a quiet knowing. This isn't the same. This Persian doesn't see me. I am performing again. And that knowledge creates a permanent comparison. You became the standard they can't recreate. Not because you were flawless, not because you were the perfect partner, but because you were the first person who made them feel like more than their performance. And now every new person is measured against that, unconsciously, relentlessly. They'll tell themselves the new person is better. They'll convince themselves they're happier. They'll post evidence to prove it. But late at night, when the performance stops and the silence creeps in, they know something is missing. Something they can't name and can't find and can't replace. And that something is you. Not the you who argued with them. Not the you who got frustrated. Not the you who eventually walked away. But the you who looked at them in their ugliest moment and didn't flinch. The you who said, "I understand," and meant it. The you who saw the scared child beneath the adult monster and stayed anyway. That you is gone, and they are terrified they will never find it again. Here's what happens next, and if you've been through this, you're going to recognize it immediately. The narcissist starts looking for you in other people, not consciously. They wouldn't admit it. They might not even realize they're doing it. But watch closely and you'll see the pattern. They find someone new, and at first, the new person seems perfect. They're attractive, they're attentive, they say all the right things, and the narcissist thinks, "See, I told you, you are replaceable. This person is even better." But then something happens. The new person doesn't respond the way you would. The new person doesn't understand the way you did. The new person doesn't absorb their chaos without breaking, and the narcissist gets frustrated. They start testing the new person, pushing buttons, creating conflict. Not intentionally or maybe intentionally, but unconsciously. They're looking for the same reaction they got from you. The patience, the understanding, the willingness to stay through the storm. But the new person fails the test. Because most people will not absorb what you absorb. Most people will not stay when they're pushed away. Most people will not understand behavior. That makes no sense. Most people will just leave, and the narcissist is left standing there, confused and angry, wondering why nothing works anymore. So they try again. New person, same cycle, same tests, same failure. And somewhere along the way, a quiet realization starts to form. It wasn't them. It was you. You were the one who made it work. You were the one who understood. You were the one who stayed when no one else would. And that realization is devastating for a narcissist, because it means they didn't discard you because you were weak. They discarded you because they couldn't handle the vulnerability of being truly seen, and now you're gone, and they are left with an endless parade of people who will never reach the depth you reached. They try to recreate you, but you can't recreate something you never understood in the first place. Let me talk about the Hoover. If you've been in narcissistic abuse recovery, you know this word. The Hoover, named after the vacuum cleaner, because they try to suck you back in. And if you've experienced it, you know how confusing it is. One day, after months of silence, your phone lights up. A text, a call, a DM, a "Hey, I was thinking about you. I've been doing a lot of healing, and I realized I treated you badly. No one has ever understood me the way you did." And your heart stops, because part of youth, part that still cares, still hopes, still believes in redemption, wants to believe it's real. But here's what you need to understand. They don't come back because they love you. They don't come back because they've changed. They don't come back because they finally see your worth. They come back because something in them stayed unfinished. And that unfinished thing is their own regulation. Without you, their internal chaos is unmanaged. Their shame is unsoothed. Their ego is unregulated. And they need someone to fix that. They need someone to absorb the projection. They need someone to hold the stability they cannot create for themselves. They come back because you're the only one who ever made them feel real. And that feeling is addictive. But here's the part that will save you a lot of pain. When they come back, they are not coming back to love you. They are coming back to use you, to extract the regulation they can't find anywhere else, to feel, just for a moment, like they are okay. And then once they've gotten what they need, they will leave, again, or worse. They will stay and slowly destroy you, again, because they haven't changed. They've just run out of options, and you're the only person who ever made them feel like they weren't completely broken. But that was never your job, and it's not your job. Now, let me speak directly to you now. The person watching this who has been through this nightmare. You have spent months, maybe years, feeling replaceable. Every time they moved on, you felt it. Every time they posted someone new, you felt it. Every time they treated someone else the way you begged to be treated, you felt it. And that feeling has done something to you. It's made you doubt yourself. It's made you question your worth. It's made you wonder if you were the problem, if you were too much, if you weren't enough, if you imagined the whole thing. You've replayed conversations in your head. Maybe if I had just been more patient. Maybe if I had just loved them harder. Maybe if I had just stayed a little longer. And the confusion is real. Because on one hand, they treated you like you were nothing. On the other hand, they keep coming back. So which is it? Am I replaceable or not? And here's the answer. You were never replaceable. You were just not recognized. In time, they didn't lose you because someone better came along. They lost you because they could not hold what you gave them. You were not easy to love. You were real to be seen. And that terrified them. So they ran. They devalued. They discarded. They told themselves you were the problem. They told themselves anyone could do what you did. And then they tried to prove it. And they failed. Not because you're perfect. Not because you're the only empath on the planet, but because what you gave them was not a service, it was a presence. And presence could not be replicated. You showed up, fully, honestly, vulnerably. You gave them the gift of being truly seen, and they threw it away. Not because it had no value, but because they had no capacity to receive it. That is not your failure. That is their tragedy. Let me tell you something most people will never tell you. Narcissists spend their entire lives chasing a feeling they will never fully experience again. The first time someone truly sees them, truly understands them, truly holds space for who they are, beneath the performance, that feeling is intoxicating. But it's also terrifying, because to be truly seen means to be truly vulnerable. And to someone with a fragmented sense of self, vulnerability feels like annihilation. So they push you away. They devalue you. They replace you. They tell themselves, you were nothing. And then they spend the rest of their lives trying to find that feeling again. New person after new person, new relationship after new relationship, you attempt after new attempt. And it never works. because you can't recreate the first time you were truly seen. You can't go back to that innocence, that openness, that willingness to believe that someone could actually understand you. Once you've had it and lost it, everything else is a pale imitation, and that's where the narcissist lives, in the pale imitation, surrounded by people who admire them but don't see them, loved for their performance but not their person, validated constantly but understood never. Yet on the other hand, you are free. You are free to find someone who can receive what you give, someone who won't run from being seen, someone who will look at your vulnerability and say, "Me too," instead of "You're too much." You are free to stop carrying someone else's chaos. You are free to stop regulating emotions that were never yours to regulate. You are free to stop performing the role of the one who stays while everyone else leaves. You are free, and they are not. They are trapped in an endless cycle of replacement, searching for something they already had and destroyed. That is not winning. That is not moving on. That is a prison, and you just walked out of it. Asterisk. They didn't lose you when they found someone else. They lost you the moment they chose the version of themselves that could not keep you. The moment they chose ego over intimacy. The moment they chose control over connection. The moment they chose their own comfort over your humanity. That was the loss. Everything after that was just the slow, painful realization of what they threw away. And what they spend the rest of their life chasing isn't another person. It's the feeling they had when they were with you, the one they never understood until it was already gone. So let me leave you with this. You were never replaceable. You were just unrecognized by someone who lacked the capacity to see you, and that is not the same thing, not even close.